I'm writing this as a letter I'll never send. Because letters let me slow things down, and slow has always been the only way I can hear myself think. It was almost midnight when my phone buzzed. I was half asleep, that thin floaty place where the day hasn't fully let go. The family chat had a way of finding me there. I opened it expecting a meme or a logistics question: who was driving mom to her appointment, who could spot the electric bill until dad's pension cleared. Instead, there it was. Blunt and clean: you're out. We don't need you. My dad's name above it, his profile the same one he's used for years. Him squinting into the sun, arm around my sister. Both of them smiling like nothing had ever been owed. I read it twice. Not because I didn't understand it, but because I was waiting for the part where it softened. It didn't. Before I could put the phone down, my sister replied. Finally, that one stung in a quieter way. My father's messages always came with weight, authority, expectation, but my sister's carried history. Long dinners where she joked about me being the responsible one. The way everyone nodded, relieved. As if responsibility were a natural resource I produced on demand. I didn't answer right away. I set the phone face down and listened to the refrigerator hum. I thought about the way my dad used to say, families help each other. Whenever money came up, as it helped were one way street that just happened to run through my bank account. I'd started paying for things years earlier, during a rough patch they called temporary. The cable bill, then the phone plan. A transfer here, another there. Eventually it became automated. Rent assistance labeled as loan, but never repaid. Utilities I covered because it was easier than hearing about late fees. I told myself it was support, not obligation. I told myself I could stop anytime. What I didn't say out loud, what I barely admitted to myself, was that being needed felt safer than being wanted. Needed people didn't get cut off. Needed people had a role. I picked the phone back up and opened my banking app. The payments were all there, lined up neatly, like they'd been wait till angry. I felt tired in a precise way, the kind of tired that comes from carrying something carefully for too long. I canceled them. One by one. No speeches, no notes. Just toggles sliding from on to off. The app asked me to confirm. I did. Then I went back to the chat and typed a single line. Good timing, I just canceled your payments. I sent it before I could rewrite it into something softer. For a moment nothing happened. The silence felt stretched, like a held breath. Then, at 12:05 a.m., my phone vibrated again, and again, and again, messages stacked on the screen faster than I could read them. Confusion first: what payments? Then denial: you can't do that. Then accusation: this is cruel. And finally panic, raw and unfiltered. Screenshots of error messages, questions about due dates. A sudden interest in discussion. I watched without responding. There was a strange clarity in that watching, like stepping back from a painting and finally seeing the whole thing. The same people who had just declared they didn't need me were now listing exactly where they did. My dad's tone changed first. The certainty drained out of his words, replaced by something careful. He asked me to call. He said, talk this through. He said families don't make decisions like this over text. My sister went quiet. That felt significant too. I didn't reply. Not because I was punishing them, but because I needed to hear what it felt like when I wasn't immediately available to fix things. The chat kept going without me, looping through bargaining and blame. Someone mentioned the mortgage. Someone else said my timing was irresponsible. No one apologized. Around 1 a.m, a message popped up from the bank's automated system, confirmation emails I hadn't noticed earlier. Dry language, dates, reference numbers. It struck me then how little of this was actually about emotion. Systems didn't care about family roles. They just did what they were told. The next morning, my dad called. I let it ring. He texted instead, asking me to reconsider, saying he'd been angry, that he hadn't meant it like that. He wrote, you know how I get. As if his moods were weather I should plan around. I thought about replying with explanations, with years compressed into paragraphs. About how being out was something I'd felt for a long time, even while I was paying to stay in. About how rejection doesn't start with a message, it just gets named there. Instead, I wrote back something small. I'm not discussing finances right now. He didn't like that. He called again. Then my mother called. Her voice already shaking when I finally answered. She said she didn't understand why I was doing this to them. She said my sister was upset. She asked what people were supposed to do. I listened. When she finished, I said, "I'm doing what you said. You don't need me." There was a pause on the line. Not dramatic. Just empty. Over the next few weeks, things shifted in uneven ways. Bills went unpaid, then paid late. My dad found programs he'd dismissed before. My sister took on responsibilities she'd never touched. The family chat grew quieter, then awkward, then careful, like everyone was learning a new language. I felt lighter and heavier at the same time. Freedom has mass, it pulls at you differently. Sometimes I wondered if I'd gone too far. If there had been a better way to set boundaries without detonating the whole structure. Then I'd remember how quickly, had "don't need you" had been typed, how easy it had sounded. I'd remember that independence isn't something you ask permission for. We still talk now and then. The warmth hasn't returned. But neither has the certainty that I'll catch them if they fall. The space between us is real. It's also honest. This letter won't change anything. I know that. But writing it lets me name what happened without asking anyone to agree. I wasn't pushed out by one message. I stepped away when the cost of staying became clearer than the fear of leaving. And some nights, that has to be enough.